Hi, Andrew Kramer here. What we have here is this footage of this guy in front of a green screen, and that is a MP5 for those of you who are interested. It's an airsoft gun made out of very high quality plastic, so very dangerous, I can assure you. The first thing we're going to do is take this footage and drag it out to the composition area and make a new composition. I should point out, this is actually my good friend Sam Loya, who helped me out tremendously in this whole training DVD process and creation. So I just want to go ahead and thank him for all the time and help he put into making this authentic. I mean, look at this face. Yeah. Next thing we're going to do is select the layer and go up to Effects, Keying, Key Light. And this is the plugin we're going to use to pull a good matte from this green footage. So first thing we're going to do is pick the color green. Okay. And if I toggle this transparency, you can see already things are starting to happen. All right, let's go ahead and skip a few of these settings. And first thing I want to focus on is this screen pre-blur. And basically what this does is blurs the matte before it pulls the key from it. So if we go to the screen matte in the viewing options, we play with this, you can see it kind of blurs it out. And the benefit of this is when you're working with DV footage especially, the edges aren't perfect and they can be blocky and have artifacts. And so if you blur it out slightly before you pull the key, it'll make for a much smoother edge and it won't crawl and look all crazy. So that's obviously a good thing. Now the next thing I want to go to is the screen matte. And we have a few settings in here I want to look at. Let's go and change the view momentarily to the screen matte view. And this is the black and white view. Everything that's white is opaque and everything that is black is going to be transparent. We have some gray area here which we need to work on. So the clip black will basically bump up the tolerance for the black and just kind of cut that out of the mix here. And likewise we have some gray here in the white and I want to go ahead and clip that down. So that's pretty good. Let's go with 35 and we'll make it, say, 75. And if we switch back to the final result and we zoom in here, you can see we actually have a pretty nice edge all around. But we're going to go and take it a few steps further. If we need to, we can actually adjust the matte basically globally and shrink it or grow it. I'm actually going to shrink it down 0.5 pixels just to make sure we don't have a weird edge. Key Light is actually a very powerful plugin. It's doing a lot of things for us basically automatically, and one of the things it's doing for us is spill suppression. If we go to the view and we change this to intermediate result, a normal keyer will basically leave all this in. That is just basically the spill from the green background. And what Key Light does is, if we go back to the final result, it actually tints those greenish pixels a color that you pick, and default is gray, which is kind of a neutral color. So it kind of gives it a non-tinted look, which is pretty nice. But since we're working with DV footage, there's a few things, a few workarounds, if you will. What I'm going to do is switch the replace method to hard color. And that basically is just a little bit lighter blending with the green color that we're suppressing. I'm going to change this color also to like a grayish green. And the reason I'm doing that is just to get a little bit closer to the original green because of the low quality of DV footage. We can run into some artifacting with the color sampling. So the closer you get it to green, the less artifacting, but obviously you want to be far enough away so that the tint isn't there. So this color seems to do it for us. All right, the next thing we're going to do is add our background. So back to the project, I'm going to take this background picture that we have, which is actually taken with a 20D in some dark, crazy alley. So let's go ahead and put this into our background. So I'm going to drag it down here underneath our layer, and I'm going to hit Alt-Home to line that up. And zooming out here with the mouse, rolling the mouse button back, we can see it's a huge picture. It's like 8 megapixels. Well, we're going to scale it down, and I'm going to zoom in here, maybe like that. Okay, maybe a little bigger. All right, we're working with progressive scan footage. Now, if we were working with interlace footage, we would possibly have some more artifacting and noisier edges. And one solution for that is a matte choker. And if we select our green screen footage, we go up to Effects, Matte, Simple Choker, we get this really great effect and basically geometrically smooths out the edges. Let's go ahead and change the choke matte amount to, say, 0.75. Let's go maybe 1.5. Okay, and you can see it kind of shrinks the edges just a little bit if I shut this on and off, but it cleans them up dramatically. Let's just do one even number. Okay, the next thing we need to do is try to match our foreground footage with the background. Basically, you can see our background is kind of greenish, and he is, you know, in a studio in front of a green screen. So we need to somewhat get these colors to get a little bit closer together. What I'm going to do is, with the SAM layer selected, I'm going to go to Effects, Color Correction, and down to Levels, and I'm going to analyze a few things here first. You'll notice in the shadows of our SAM layer is the shadows are black. You know, they're gray, maybe a little warm, but in our background layer, the shadows are greenish. So what we want to do is try to match that somewhat. So I'm going to go to the red channel, and I'm actually going to move the input black over just a little bit, and you can see that starts to tint it kind of a greenish in the shadow area. It's still not perfect, so we're going to go ahead and come over to the blue channel. And another thing we notice is the highlights in the background are very yellowish green. What we're going to do is, we zoom in here to the edge here, we're going to change the blue output white. And if we just slide this over, you'll see that we kind of can start matching that color. Now we could overdo it a little bit, you know, and say, okay, well, that's just foreground lighting, but we just want to get it to look, yeah, that looks pretty good. Oh, by the way, this is actually widescreen footage, so if we get a little space here, we can toggle the pixel aspect ratio and you know, see what the actual composition is going to look like. But for compositing and checking edges, I don't like to use it because you can, you know, it makes its own kind of artifacting to stretch the pixels, and so we don't really need to concern ourselves with that for now. Now, if we go back to the levels adjustment, I'm going to go back to the red channel, and if I change the red gamma and just move it down just a little bit, I can get some of the color out of his face to try to match it a little bit better. The other thing I want to do is add another effect, color correction, hue, and saturation. And the reason I want to do this is we're kind of in a dark alley, at least that's the idea. So we need to bring down the saturation a little bit. So if we take the master saturation and maybe we just push it down just a little bit, that way we can eliminate some of the color because with less light, you have less color, at least it's not as vivid. So -25 seems like a pretty good number. Let's go ahead and blur our background out just a little bit. First thing though, this is an 8 megapixel picture. It's huge. We don't want to be adding an effect to it and having to, you know, render out all the pixels for this huge image. So what we're going to do is we're going to pre-compose it. So we're going to select it, layer, pre-compose, move it into a new comp. We'll call it background. And the reason we do that is now it's essentially rastered at just 720 by 480. So if we go to effects and we add a this new effect called lens blur, it's only going to render out the area that that is right here rather than the huge 8 megapixel picture, which would take forever. I'm going to enlarge the frame a little bit because of the edges get soft because of the blur. So if I just enlarge it just a little bit, we can get rid of that. All right, we're going to lower the iris or the amount here to say about 5 because he's pretty close to the wall, so we want it to be somewhat in focus. Yeah. Okay, good. Other things we can do to maybe enhance this mix is adding a nice shadow. And maybe what we could do is make this shadow kind of just cast down here on the wall as he walks up. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this layer. And I'm going to go ahead and shut this top one off, take the middle one, and go to the hue and saturation adjustments and just turn the lightness all the way down because we want a black shadow, right? Then I'm going to go to Effects, Blur, Fast Blur, Repeat Edge Pixels, and just pump this up, right? There we go. And I'm going to hit F4, or we can toggle between the different switches. I'm just going to hit F4 here and F4 and change this to color burn. No. Classic color burn. We're going to lower the opacity. Yeah, that's nice. And this the nice thing about this classic color burn is it kind of blends with the background really nicely. You know, so it looks like it's really on the wall, and that's definitely the look we're going for. So let's go and turn this other layer back on. And, you know, obviously our shadow is right behind our guy, and we don't want that. So I'm going to take this middle layer, or shadow layer, and go to, you know, I'm going to name it. So I'm going to go ahead and click it, hit return on the keyboard, and type shadow. Perfect. Then I'm going to select it, effects, distort, corner pin. Corner pin effect is used to distort the image, you know, maybe lay it down in a certain fashion. With the effect selected, if you select the name of the effect, that's when you can start adjusting the, you know, the icons on the actual monitor window. So I'm going to go and hit the tilde key and bring this up into full screen so I can work with it a little bit better. All right, I'm going to grab these corners and just start moving the shadow, you know, into kind of a diagonal position as if it were being cast across the wall here. And then I'm going to take the layer and then just bring it down just a little bit so that it's a little bit lower than him. All right, now obviously we have this problem. The edge from the, you know, the edge of him is being kind of cut off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the blur and put it after the corner pin. And that way it'll blur it out, and that when he comes into frame, you won't quite see it as abruptly. And we're going to lower this opacity of the shadow too. It's just a light effect. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and preview this. 0. All right, I'm going to go ahead and hit 0. All right, so that shadow really helps to sell this effect. Now, the thing I'm kind of noticing is he seems to be very close against this wall. And so I want to see if I can eliminate that somehow. I'm going to hold down Alt and double click on the background layer. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom this out as far as I can go. I know there's not much room here, but... And then come back to our original timeline and look at it. And the other thing I can do is take my foreground layer and just enlarge it just a little bit, so that it looks as if he's closer to the camera and the background's a little further back. You can also add depth, you know, just by increasing the blur amount, maybe to say 10. Yeah, that really helps a lot. Well, thanks for watching, and again, my name's Andrew Kramer.